Hey there. So I'm going to show you how to do the Meadow Mystic stitch. Just a stitch video, so it's not going to be a complete project, but I'll give you some tips to get you going. And this is what it looks like. It's I really like this stitch. It has a really cool kind of look. And took me a while to figure out a name for it. But finally, with help, I decided on the name Meadow Mystic. But it's got these really pretty patterning. And then the other side looks like this. That's kind of cool too. And then I decided to do a 2-peg edge, so I did an owl eye edge, and it looks like that is going to be just fine for it, and I actually like the way it looks with it. It goes with it quite nicely. And I did my usual crochet chain cast on. You'll see that on a lot of my videos, so you'll be able to find it, because I actually did this cast on as a separate video as well. And the matching cast off is there too. Then the yarn I'm using is a landscape yarn, and color is, I think, spring something. Desert Spring. That's it. And it has some pretty colors in it. And it's a number 4 yarn, but it's a thicker number 4. And the loom that I'm using is a Cindy wood, and it's a 9-inch, 5/8 inch gauge. It has 42 pegs. And I needed even pegs for this stitch. And we're working in 2-peg pairs, and we're always going to be working the same 2 pegs. So what I did is, with the kind of end I'm using 2 pegs there on each end, so I marked them with a blue medium size needle knit marker, which I just made a kind of figure-8 loop and looped them together. And then I had combined these so that I'd be able to see which are the pegs I always work. So I'm always working these 2 pegs together that have no marker. I'm always working the pegs that have the yellow marker together. I'm always working these pegs together, these pegs together. So I have them marked in. It's a 2-row stitch. And the first row is the only one that you're going to have to really watch. The second row is really easy. It's just my owl eye stitch. So when I cast on, I just cast on. I cast on going this direction, and I did 1 row of owl eye coming back, and if you look at it, you can see my chain is right on the ends, so it's not curling up at all. That's all it needed. Okay, so I've already done my end, and I'll show you how to do that end when we get down to the other end. So I'm going to work these 2 stitches. So what I do is I take the yarn off peg 1 and I move it over to peg 2. So now I have 2 loops on peg 2. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to yarn over and then knit 2. So there's the yarn over, and I'm going to knit 2. Then I'm going to take the yarn from number 2 and move it over to number 1, and then I have the working yarn here to tighten it a bit, and I'm just going to knit it over, and then I'm going to pick it up and bring it back to peg 2. And what that's going to create is a long string here in the back. I'll turn it around and show it to you, but see, we have this long string on top right here. Here, like this, maybe you'll see it better. This long string that's just laying here. I'll get it in the camera. It's a long string that's laying here, and so I'm just going to pick it up and put it over the loop. Okay, And it's created from bringing that stitch over. It pulls the yarn over, so you'll see it right on top. It's easy to pick up and pull over. And then that's it. And so you have the working yarn, so it's right here. You're going to move it behind the peg to go over to the next 2 peg pair. So there they are with the yellow marker. And then you're going to take the yarn from peg 1 and move it over to peg 2. Now it's time to come over and do these, and we do a yarn over and knit 2 together. So I just come over and knit these over, then take the yarn and move it over to number 1, tightening it because I have the working yarn there, knitting it over, and then moving it over to peg 2 again. And that's going to create, I tighten it a bit, but that's going to create this long loop, and I don't even have to, I can just see it here at the back. Just easily put it over. It's quite a long loop. You can see how long it is here. And just plop it over. And I'm going to have to bring the camera down a little bit here because, yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay, so then the working yarn's behind peg 2. We just pick the yarn up from peg 1, move it over to peg 2, yarn over, and knit what's on peg 2, pick up the loop, bring it over to 1, knit it over, take the yarn from peg 1 and move it back to peg 2, snug it up, and here's the yarn floating there. We just pop it over. Okay, next set, we take the working yarn from peg 1, put it on peg 2, yarn over, knit the 2 together, pick up the yarn and put it on peg 1, knit it over, and move it back to peg 2, snug it up a bit, and then take the string and move it over. And then we're at the end pegs. So for the end pegs, I'm just doing an owl eye end. So I take the working yarn and go over and knit. Then I come around, go over it and the next peg and knit them. Then I come back, that, go over the 2, and then rewrap this one and knit it. And that's how I'm doing it. You can do any other kind of edge you want. I just like this one. It just goes so nice with the stitch. And this, oh, I didn't show you the side of it. The side just looks like that. It's nice and tight. Okay. Now to come back, we're going to do the owl eye stitch all the way back. So do the first stitch here and go over the 2. And I guess I'll go over owl eye stitch in case you haven't seen it. I have a lot of videos too, so you'll be able to see a lot of things with owl eye. Whatever your working yarn is, you call peg 1. You just go over peg 1 and 2, nice and loose, and knit them over. And you want to be really loose here, because this is your chance to loosen up all these yarns so that when you move the stitches to come back this way, they're nice and loose. So keeping it really nice and loose as you go. Just makes it a lot easier. And we just do the owl eye all the way back. At peg 1, over peg 1 and 2. At peg 1, over peg 1 and 2. And all the way. And then to come back, we put the working yarn over peg 1 and 2, put them over, knit peg 2 again, and then we move the stitches. So we take the yarn off peg 1, move it to peg 2. Now, another thing you can do, and I often do this, is I just take all the yarns off peg 1 and move them to peg 2, because that just, then I just have a step already done. And then that's the end peg. So then I come over, the yarn's already moved to peg 2, so I just yarn over and knit over my 2, take the yarn, put it on peg 1, knit it over, pick it up, move it over to peg 2, snug it, and move the yarn over. Go over, then I just have to lay this over the 2, knit over peg 2, take the yarn from peg 2, move it to 1, and you snug that up a little bit and knit it over, and then move it back, snug it up, and there's the string, put it over, come over, knit it, pick up the loop and put it on peg 1 and knit it over and bring it over to peg 2. So see, once you do it enough times, it's quite easy to do. And the other thing is there's a little gear on the bottom right hand of your video. If you click on it, you can slow the video down so you can re-watch me doing the stitch in slow motion, and that could really help. Okay, so we've already moved the loop over to peg 2, so we wrap in front of peg 1 and 2, knit it over, take the working yarn, move it over to peg 1, knit it over, pick it up and bring it back to peg 2, and then take this loop that you see here, there we go, and flip it over, and then the ends are done just like that. If you choose to do the owl eye side. And then coming back, all we do is owl eye stitch. So that's all you do. Row 1 is the way I've showed you there with the yarn over and knit 2 together. And then coming back is just owl eye. Okay, and wherever you are in owl eye, if the yarn is going this way and you leave your work and you come back, you know you've wrapped to there, so you know you re-wrap it and go. And it will always tell you, oh, the yarn is splitting. It'll always tell you because it's going to be on the side of the way you're going. So there we go. So I'll just go all the way to the end. Yarn is tangling, so we can look at the stitch again, but I think now you know how to do it. And what I usually do is when I hit the end, I usually come back over and I knit these 2, and then I just leave it because that's going to hold it secure, and I know when I come back I'll be doing that. And so here, of course, we move peg 1 to peg 2 and go back doing the stitch the other way. But let's take another look at this. It's getting a bit bigger now. I'll stretch it out so you can really see the stitch. There we go. And there's what it looks like. So it has quite a nice eyelet look to it. And then it has this beautiful patterning running down it. So it's quite a pretty stitch. And it has a lot of texture to it. I don't know if I can get that to really show in such a short piece, but there you can see it, sorta. Has a lot of texture to it. So okay, I hope you enjoyed that video, and until I see you again, bye.